Brand new week, brand new candidate. And I mean brand new candidate. Fresh out of medical school, we have Tran. Actually, he hasn't finished medical school. He took a little leave from Brown Medical School to pursue Congress. Some might say, why bite off so much and chew so much? Well, he'll tell you why. He's got a point of view, and frankly, I found him refreshing in his first visit to me on the radio show, weekdays noon to 3 on WPRO. So stay tuned for that. Good evening. Welcome in. Dan York in My State of Mind. Thank you very much for participating by viewing. You can participate by letting us know what you think on your state of mind. How to do that at the tail end of this brisk moving half-hour program. What's our rundown tonight? Let's check. Yeah, in case you weren't paying attention, I just wish Eric Holder, the Attorney General, would stay above it. You know, just don't feed into this whole thing. We'll talk about it. The Pope has started to use some data and is stepping out in a very, I think, courageous way. What else do we have here? I just want to know whether you care about the violence in the city, because it's going to be really a lot of us that have to have a voice in that particular conversation. Now we've got a change in the mayoral race in Providence, which might damage the former two-time mayor's chances of returning. And you know, the home run derby's tonight. Home run derby's tonight. I'm having one of those days. Home run derby is tonight, and there are new rules. All right, let's dig in and see if we can't make hide nor hair or some sense of all that's going on in the world today. Yeah, there's no doubt that they are. The headline is significant here. Strikes on Gaza enter the 7th day. It is a mess over there. And you know, I just wanted to remind you that it's happening. You know, we've got all this. So we've got all this video here. I mean, this quality of life for both Israelis and Palestinians is no way to go about. Well, it's been happening for such a long time, right? So we lose 3 teenagers, and Israel goes nuts, understandably. And then we have some real ultra right-wingers in Israel take the life of a Palestinian teenager. And now here we have all this going on. And not only do we have missiles, but we now have drones flying. I guess Israel shot down a drone coming from Hamas today. Senator Kerry, or Secretary of State Kerry, is saying, listen, we're ready and poised to get in the middle of this whole thing. You know, there's a lot going on in the summertime. I don't really even know what to say about this, other than how can you have a show that talks about stuff that's important and not say a prayer, ask you to, and pay attention to what's happening here and let your federal leadership know what you think about it. It ain't good. I don't know where the end is, because it's been going on for a long, long time. All right, next item. I wish I could say something more profound about it. It's just, you just got to shrug your shoulders, right? Stay above it. Now, come on. Eric Holder is just too much. You know, he's just too much sometimes. Here's a headline, right? Eric Holder, racial animus fuels opposition to Obama and me. He was on ABC. We have a picture of him walking here with one of the correspondents. But on the ABC show, when asked about, you know, his life and times as the Attorney General and the President himself, there was this reflection on race and an affirmation of what he had previously said. Here's the quote. We don't have the ABC video on this, I apologize, but here's the quote. He says, there's a certain level of vehemence, and it seems to me that's directed at me and at the President. I don't think this is the thing that is the main driver, but for some, there is a racial animus. You know, I think true leadership, now listen, I'm not a black person, right? So I can't walk in a black person's shoes. But at this level, we should be worried more about leadership than race, right? Eric Holder, the president himself, in order to lead, they need to be above this. Let others talk about race, but they don't need to. Does that make any sense to you? Whether you feel it or not is not necessarily important to your leadership. Rising above it ought to be. And just, you know, dropping that little bomb every once in a while just keeps that thought in everybody's mind, and it serves as a weapon. And I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's the kind of leadership we ought to be getting from the top at the White House and the Justice Department. Next item. The Pope is stepping out here in a pretty significant way The headline reads, I mean, this is the Daily News borrowing Italian headlines. Pope Francis says about 2% of priests are pedophiles. Now, as a practicing Catholic, that's enough for me to go, you know, but there's a reality out there that's kind of necessary to be transparent about. The Pope was talking about it this weekend.
Porque esos chicos y esas chicas le fueron confiados al carisma sacerdotal para llevarlos a Dios.
Now, look, the direct translation I don't have, but the informal translation of that, more or less, is that, hey, listen, boys and girls come to priests under the idea that they're bringing them to God, not to the pain that too many kids have suffered. I think this is another way for the Catholic Church to slowly purge themselves of this problem. You cannot rid yourself of the problem unless you identify the problem. And using a number, whether it's accurate, more or less, is at least a way to say, look, we get it. This Pope Francis has shown a lot of courage in a lot of ways so far. We'll see how the ball keeps rolling there. It does hurt, though, to see that admittance from the Pope. But in other ways, it's a cleansing. All right. The question is, do you care? We've got serious problems in the city of Providence with shootings last week, right? We've got a headline here that talks about the community at Chad Brown reacting, having a cookout, kind of a peace type of attempt there. Listen, there's a lot going on, and there's discussions tonight. The NAACP has asked Mayor Taveras to headline some kind of violence summit where elected officials and others will all get together, try to come up with some solutions to what's going on. But I like the fact that people in the neighborhood this weekend took ownership.
The Chad Brown neighborhood, where gunshots in one evening left 5 people wounded and shell casings littering the streets, is where there is a call for change.
It's on us to take care of us, and any resources or support that we get from outside of us, that's complimentary. But this is on us. We're shooting us.
Eyewitness News spoke with Dwayne Hackney at Sunday's community barbecue, a rally to take back the streets. And these latest bursts of violence appear to have been the tipping point.
You guys weren't born with a weapon. You guys were born with your hands. Use your hands to better use.
It's kind of a triple toe loop on the word USE, no doubt. But I will tell you that at least her intention, her articulation may not be the best, but her intention certainly is. And I like to see that kind of community ownership of this challenge. Here's the thing. Bottom line, they are down so many cops in the city of Providence. Probably a 25% reduction if you really count all the bodies since the mid-2000s. And somebody's got to say, look, we got to put those police back on the street in whatever new management style will work, and we got to find the money and the resources. And while the city of Providence is strapped and overtaxed, that's going to be hard, but that ought to be part of the mayoral conversation, not in general, but in specific. How many officers are you going to put back on the street? Now, look, that's not the whole solution, but it's a big one, right? And as we turn to the next item here, we've got a little fluid situation going on because this move may have done just that. Here's, this is kind of interesting. Here's the field of mayoral candidates when I began the day, and you began the day this morning. A whole bunch on the left, Democrats. The first 2 guys have no idea who they are. The next 4 have the next, Lorza, Smiley, and Solomon are the leading contenders, supposedly. They've been on the program. Chris Young, strap it in, will be here, I believe, on Thursday. But this Lauren Adrian, who's the former chairman of the Board of Higher Education, jumped from Democrat to Independent and created a 4-person field in the general election, or actually 5, right? Because the Democrats will have a winner. Well, guess what? And this is how he felt about it when he put his papers in, switching from Democrat to Independent, and how he was going to change the dynamics of the city.
I am in this race because the people of Providence are interested in new leadership. The people of Providence are interested in moving forward, not backward, and that's what I'm here to do.
Yeah, well, as the kids say to me sometimes, just kidding. Here's today's headline. He's out. Now, I had told you that he was crazy for jumping out of the Democratic race into the Independent category, because the more players that are in the general election for Buddy Cianci, the better chance Buddy Cianci has to win that race. Well, this one hurts Buddy Cianci. So I don't know what's up. Adrian's commentary was kind of like, you know what? Now that the field is set, this is going to be better for the city. He was inferring that Buddy Cianci's bad for the city. Those Democratic candidates all are joined, at least on that particular notion. And so Buddy Cianci's bar just got raised a little bit more in order to be able to pull that third term off. Stay tuned. And finally, tonight, new rules, as they say in, I don't know, baseball, home run derbies. We have a headline on this? I think so. The new home run derby format will make it more exciting, I guess. Yes, so instead of 10 outs, they get 7 outs. You know how this whole thing works? They get some old geezer to pitch to them, and then they just swat balls until 10 of them don't go out of the park, and the total is the total, and now it's going to be 7. And there's some changes in how the runs accumulate or the home runs accumulate, and there's one more per league competing, and it's a bracket thing. So I've always enjoyed it, and I'm looking forward to it tonight with new rules. I like the 7 outs. Makes you, get on your game quicker. Alrighty, when we come back, we have a brand new candidate for Congress. He's got some interesting thoughts. Stay with us. So, I was looking at the field of candidates for Congress, and I'm thinking, who is this kid? What is he trying to accomplish here? I'm thinking, wait a second, not so bad after I met him. Here's a little note on Stan out there in the community. Brown medical student, took a little leave. And it's an interesting story. Welcome, man. Nice to have you.
Thanks. I'm glad I changed my tie between that picture and this picture. It's a different one.
You got a one-jacket congressional run, but a couple of different ties?
A couple, not many.
Well, hey, listen, you're a college student, for crying out loud. You're not supposed to be flowing in it, for God's sake. You make all that money after you become the family practice doctor that you want to become. Right. Tell everybody the quick resume and how you got to Brown first.
Okay, so I'm 26 years old now. I was born in California. My parents are Vietnamese immigrants. They left after the war. They're from South Vietnam. So I was born and raised in California. I went to Stanford University. I taught high school in Arizona, taught high school science, and then came out here to Brown for medical school.
You taught?
That's right.
So you've been in the system. You know what public education is all about.
I was in the private boarding school. So
okay.
Not quite.
Not quite.
But being on the other side of education, sure. I knew a little bit about how it was delivered.
And what kind of doc do you want to be?
Family medicine.
Right. And so you're in what year of medical practice now?
So in medical school, I finished my 3rd year, so I'm starting my 4th year, but I'm on leave of absence right now.
To run for Congress?
That's right.
That's weird.
Right.
So
yeah.
Why?
Most of my friends think that way, and
do
my
they?
Parents. Yeah, right.
Well, how's it resonating with your parents, first of all?
They are slowly warming up to it. I think my dad is warming up to it. My mom's still opposed to it.
She mad at you?
Maybe.
A little bit?
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well,
I mean, I'm 26. I can.
Yeah, guy's got to do what he's got to do.
Right. Right.
Well, your dad's warming up to the idea. You feel strongly about this. This is not some gimmick. You're not screwing around. After
right.
I had a conversation with Stan on the radio that kind of sold me on the idea that this was a focused conversation that you're trying to have. So tell everybody what the conversation is.
So as a medical student, I see the healthcare system and how broken it is. And to address a lot of these bigger issue things, you can't do it as a physician or in the field of medicine. So this is why I'm stepping out from medicine just for a little bit, for a year, 3 years, 5 years, however long this is, to try to address some of these things before I go back to medicine and practice the way it should be practiced.
A year, 3 years, 5 years. The year
Sure.
would be running.
Right.
3 years would mean you won
One term.
5 would mean you got 2.
Two,
You
right.
really think you can win against David Cicilline?
I think there's a chance.
Steve, we can put up a picture here. We all know the congressman. He's on the left, and Cormac Lynch is the guy on the right. He is your Republican opponent. He is a soldier that has a great personal story. He's also a startup guy. So between the two of you, you guys are kind of rubbing sticks together financially, resource-wise, organizationally, that whole thing on the Republican side in the 1st District running against David Cicilline. By the way, Matt Fecto is the Democrat. He'll be Democrat running against Cicilline in a primary. He's actually coming tomorrow night. Have you met Cormac Lynch? You must
Yes,
have, right?
I have.
Nice guy.
He is.
You guys get along?
Yeah.
So there's no
Yes.
Republican battling going on here.
No.
You each have your own perspective.
Right. I think we're different candidates and we have different ideas, so there's no conflict there.
You think you can win? Or are you just in here to prove a point? Or to create a conversation that's important?
I think I can win. I think the chances are, it's a long shot, but I think I can win.
What gives you that thinking?
I think a lot of people underestimate me, just, and I like to feed into that because it helps to slide under the radar. But the things I've tried in the past.
I don't know that sliding under the radar helps when you're running for office. People have to know you, they have to know your message, they have to believe in you.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't think you sneak in to public office.
Right. The voters need to know you, and they need to know what you stand for. But in terms of, I think in this sort of race, if you don't have money, people don't take you seriously, and they think that you have no chance of winning. I think if you put in a lot of hard work, I think that gets you very far. It's gotten me far in the past, and I think there's a chance it'll work again.
All right. When we come back, Stan's got this kind of commentary on how it works, the routine of politics, and we'll talk about that. Stay with us.
Politics is so far-reaching it affects every aspect of our lives. From the quality of education that our children get, to how much we pay for prescription medication, to the condition of roads that we drive on. Now, all these things are controlled by politicians, and most of them see their job as a career. They start out as city councilor, then run for mayor, and then move on up. And the path of success is to not make any waves. If you don't accomplish anything, you don't make any enemies. And your name recognition will carry you through the election. I'm running for Congress because I want to change this.
I thought that was interesting. You believe that?
Yes.
Expand.
Which part? I talked about a lot.
Just the whole routine of not making waves, not making decisions, sliding through, building name recognition, the
Right.
professionalism of politics, that bothers you?
Not the professionalism part, but the part where in order to not make anyone angry, you don't say anything of substance. And then that bothers me because you're not solving anything either.
Every politician operates that way, or most?
Most. All the ones that have asked me for my vote before have operated that way.
What are you missing as a constituent that made you want to jump into the game from these career pattern, routine game players?
Mostly, every time I turn on the TV and listen to politicians speak, I felt like I was wasting my time. I wasn't getting anything of substance from them. And they get so much coverage on the media, and they don't talk about anything important. Or they do, but like they don't talk about solutions, or they just speak very broadly and vaguely. And I would rather be doing something else with my time.
So what's the most specific thing you can offer constituents, which is counterintuitive to what they do?
Okay, so we can talk about like the plans to make healthcare cheaper, for example.
Right. As a medical student, you've already told me on the radio that
Yes.
you have very specific thoughts about what Obamacare
Okay.
does and does not do. So tell us, when people walk away going, boy, that Stan Tran, he was very specific. He wasn't just in
Right.
general. What is it? What do people take away from you?
So you want to talk about the ideas. There are multiple ideas. It's not just one fix. Allowing patients to buy prescription medication from other countries where it's cheaper. Better interoperability. Canada or Mexico, yeah. The prices there are like way less, about half as what they are here. Having better interoperability of the electronic medical record system so that when you go from one hospital to a different one, your care follows with you. Right now, the way it works is that if you change hospitals, they have to do everything over again. So they start from scratch, ask all the questions again, repeat all the lab testing. And that's bad. It slows your care down. It exposes you to needless radiation, needless blood sticks, and it costs a lot. So these are all inefficiencies, things that we can fix. Forcing hospitals to publish prices, the procedures that they produce, and to have information on outcomes. If you want a hip replacement, for example, you can go to 2 different doctors or hospitals. How do you pick between the different ones? What you care about, or what you should care about as a patient, is like rates of infection, rates of premature joint failure, sorts of things that.
Like a report card on the medical source that you're
Right,
looking at.
right.
And a competitive choice?
Yes. So to be informed, to make choices, you need to be informed. That means you need to know how much you're paying and what you're getting, neither which you know now. I mean, if you go to McDonald's, you know how many calories there are because they post that stuff. When you go to the hospital, you just hope for the best and hope that you trust the system that they have your best interests at heart and that they'll take care of you. And sometimes that's not true.
So you wouldn't want to do what? Create legislation that demands what of the medical community? What?
Publish prices for the services they provide.
That's the specific thing.
And collect information. And so
Do you think consumers want to be smarter? I mean, about medical?
Not all, but some. And for those who want to, it should be available to them. As a smart person, as someone who's been going through medical school and almost finished, if I went out and had to pick a hospital for an operation, I don't have access to this data.
Are you a one-issue candidate?
No. So the reason why I talk so much about healthcare is because it's what we spend the most money on in this state and in this country as a proportion of our budget. So to fix things, if we want to reduce the national deficit, reduce spending, make things more efficient, we look at what we spend the most money on, and it happens to be healthcare. So I also care about education because I was a high school teacher before, and the ideas on how to make education better. Year-round schooling for kindergarten through 8th grade, and
parents hate that. All right, you got to come back because we're out of time. You come back.
Okay.
We'll do everything non-medical in your
Sure.
in your race next time you come back.
Absolutely.
All right. Stan Tran, your state of mind when we come back. Stay with us. I don't know about you, but it's refreshing to have young candidates like Stan Tran in the mix and his friend from college who's helping him work. You didn't see her. Full state of mind graphic up, as we say, 228-1886. Call us. We're out of time tonight because we took too much time with the candidate. But it was worth it. Give the guy a look on the Republican side for Congress. Democrat running against Cicilline in a primary tomorrow, Matt Fecto. I'll see you on the radio at noon, too. Take care.